Have you ever felt like she's sending signals you can't quite read, testing your patience, your confidence, or even your intentions without saying a word? The truth is, women don't always reveal their feelings outright. They have subtle ways of observing, feeling, and measuring the man they want, not through words, but through silent tests. Understanding these signs can completely change how you show up, how you attract, and how you deepen connection. Today, you're about to discover 7 silent ways women evaluate the man they desire, and how you can respond with confidence, calm, and emotional intelligence. From the very first moments of interaction, a woman is quietly watching more than what you say. She's observing how you carry yourself when life isn't smooth, when challenges arise, or when unexpected pressures hit. Emotional strength is not about being unshakable or pretending that everything is perfect. It's about the depth of your composure, the way you respond under tension, and the calmness that radiates even when chaos surrounds you. She notices the subtle ways you handle disappointment, how you manage frustration, and whether your reactions are rooted in impulse or reflection. Women are inherently sensitive to energy and tone, so even the smallest flicker of irritability or insecurity can signal instability, whereas a calm, measured presence communicates strength, reliability, and a quiet confidence that is magnetic without being overbearing. Emotional strength isn't about never showing vulnerability, it's about showing it selectively and intentionally. She observes whether you can express emotions without losing control, whether you can face disappointment without turning reactive, and whether you maintain dignity even when the situation feels unfair. A man who can process his emotions internally and express them constructively signals maturity, and she feels drawn to the security that comes with someone who doesn't crumble at the first sign of difficulty. She may create scenarios, subtle challenges, minor setbacks, or moments of tension to see how grounded you remain. These aren't tests meant to provoke anger or resentment. They are unconscious cues that help her measure whether your emotional foundation is strong enough to support a deeper connection. Beyond moments of conflict, she also observes your reactions to others, how you treat strangers, colleagues, or friends under stress. Emotional strength is demonstrated not just in personal challenges, but in social contexts, in the way you maintain composure when provoked or faced with unexpected criticism. She notices whether you can empathize without overextending yourself, whether you remain principled under pressure, and whether your calm presence has a stabilizing effect on those around you. A man who can navigate high-pressure situations without losing his center communicates reliability and quiet power, which resonates deeply on a subconscious level. Even your decision-making under stress becomes a point of observation. Women pay attention to whether you make choices impulsively when emotions rise, or whether you pause, assess, and respond with intention. Emotional strength is intertwined with clarity of thought and resilience, and she intuitively feels whether you can withstand adversity while maintaining balance, whether your reactions are consistent, and whether your presence feels like a safe harbor in a storm. The subtleties of your body language, your tone of voice, and your ability to maintain perspective all become pieces of a larger puzzle she is silently putting together. She may not verbalize these thoughts, but every interaction leaves an imprint on her assessment of your stability, your reliability, and ultimately your suitability as someone capable of sustaining meaningful emotional connection. One of the most subtle yet revealing ways a woman tests the man she wants is through what seems like playful push and pull, a series of small challenges that gauge confidence, patience, and self-assurance. It's never about creating unnecessary conflict. It's a natural way she measures emotional strength, consistency, and how comfortable you are in your own skin. She might tease, contradict, or slightly challenge your opinions in conversation, not to provoke anger, but to see if you can respond with calm wit and intelligence rather than insecurity or defensiveness. These moments are like tiny mirrors, reflecting how balanced you remain under gentle pressure and whether you can maintain charm and composure when she subtly tests your boundaries. Push and pull can also appear in her presence. Sometimes she may seek attention, other times she may step back, creating a space that invites observation. She notices whether you can handle these fluctuations without overreacting, whether you can maintain intrigue without feeling rejected, and whether you respect her autonomy while still demonstrating interest and engagement. The playful challenges are carefully measured. She is observing if you can respond with emotional intelligence, if you can recognize subtle cues without reading too much into them, and if you can maintain a steady confidence that doesn't rely on constant validation. This dynamic becomes a dance of sorts, where patience, attentiveness, and self-control speak far louder than words ever could. Beyond teasing, push and pull can manifest in more practical ways, like testing your response to plans she changes at the last minute, small contradictions in opinions, or light debates that probe your flexibility and assertiveness. She wants to see if you can navigate these minor disruptions gracefully, if you can stand your ground without becoming rigid or defensive, and if you can balance humor with honesty. These interactions reveal how you handle subtle tension, and women instinctively pick up on whether your reactions are rooted in genuine confidence or a fragile ego. Your ability to stay calm, playful, and centered during these moments communicates a quiet dominance, an emotional maturity that attracts without forcing, influences without manipulating, and reassures without controlling. She also observes how you interpret her behavior, whether you respond with patience or impulsivity, whether you read the energy rather than just the words, and whether you understand that her occasional withdrawal or teasing is not rejection, but a measure of your resilience. Push and pull is not a test to pass with scripted answers. It's an ongoing assessment of how naturally you can adapt, engage, and maintain balance while she evaluates your emotional intelligence and subtle leadership qualities. Your reactions here are far more telling than grand gestures or declarations. They are evidence of how reliable, attentive, and composed you can be, and they form the foundation of trust, attraction, and the sense that you can hold your own in any dynamic. Consistency is one of the quietest yet most powerful ways a woman gauges a man she's genuinely interested in. She is always observing whether your actions match your words, whether your attention and energy are steady over time, and whether you show up with the same presence, regardless of circumstances. It's not about perfection or rigid predictability. It's about reliability, a sense of trustworthiness, and the subtle reassurance that your behavior isn't swayed by convenience or mood swings. Every small interaction, whether a text, a call, or a spontaneous meeting, becomes a reflection of your consistency, and she unconsciously records these moments to determine whether you are someone she can count on emotionally, mentally, and even socially. She pays attention to how you manage everyday commitments, not just grand gestures. Do you follow through on promises, no matter how small? Do you show care and attentiveness even when it requires patience or effort? A woman notices if your presence is constant or if it fluctuates, if your energy is focused or scattered, if your words carry weight or fade without follow through. This is less about control and more about trust building. She wants to see whether your engagement is genuine, whether your interest is steady, and whether your emotional and mental presence aligns with what you express verbally. Inconsistencies, even minor ones, can create doubt and confusion, whereas a consistent man exudes quiet security that naturally attracts and reassures. Consistency also extends to emotional behavior and reactions. She observes whether your mood shifts dramatically based on minor triggers, whether you maintain composure under stress, and whether your responses are predictable in a healthy way rather than reactive. Emotional consistency communicates that you have inner stability, self-awareness, and the ability to navigate life without being thrown off by small challenges. She notices patterns in how you respond to her needs, how you manage your time, and how you interact with others. The subtleties of consistency, how you remain approachable, kind, and attentive day after day, are far more telling than any single moment of charm or confidence. Even in terms of ambition and personal growth, consistency becomes a silent indicator of character. She notices if you follow through on your goals, if your actions reflect your intentions, and if you maintain dedication to what matters most to you. It isn't about showing off achievements. It's about the quiet power of discipline, responsibility, and integrity that emerges when someone is aligned in thought and action. She observes if your attention to relationships, work, and personal values is balanced and ongoing, or if it fluctuates based on convenience, distraction, or mood. True consistency demonstrates that you are grounded, dependable, and someone capable of sustaining connection over the long term, creating a sense of safety and emotional security that draws her closer. One of the most understated ways a woman tests a man she's genuinely interested in is by observing his attention to detail, not just in grand gestures, but in the small, seemingly insignificant moments that reveal depth, care, and emotional attentiveness. She notices whether you pick up on subtle changes in her mood, whether you remember the little things she mentions in passing, and whether your responses indicate that you are truly present rather than just superficially engaged. Attention to detail is more than remembering facts. It is a reflection of emotional intelligence, empathy, and the ability to connect on a level that goes beyond words. She watches how naturally you can sense what she needs, what she values, and what makes her feel seen and understood. Even the smallest gestures become meaningful signals in her observation. She notices if you remember a favorite coffee, a song she mentioned once, or a detail about a story she shared. These moments are not about performing or proving anything. They are about showing genuine awareness and attentiveness. A man who can internalize these small details demonstrates presence, thoughtfulness, and the capacity to engage deeply without being asked repeatedly. Women intuitively sense when someone is listening with intent versus hearing without registering meaning. The ability to notice, remember, and act on these details conveys that you are invested, observant, and capable of nurturing a connection that feels safe, valued, and emotionally rich. Attention to detail also manifests in how you interpret unspoken cues. She watches whether you can read body language, facial expressions, and tone of voice, and whether you respond appropriately to subtle emotional shifts. This ability is especially powerful because it communicates understanding without her having to articulate everything explicitly. She is testing whether you can navigate nuance, whether you can sense when she needs space, reassurance, or playful engagement, and whether you can respond with intuition rather than rigid rules or assumptions. Emotional attentiveness shows her that you are emotionally available and capable of responding to the depth of her personality, creating a sense of safety, respect, and attraction simultaneously. Beyond emotional cues, she observes whether you notice the environment and context around her, whether you pick up on the effort she puts into small things, whether you acknowledge acts of kindness, and whether your awareness extends beyond surface-level interactions. This attention to detail becomes a silent measure of your character, indicating patience, mindfulness, and genuine care. It tells her that you are not only engaged with the relationship, but also capable of appreciating her as a whole person, not just a collection of words or appearances. In essence, every small observation, remembered preference, and intuitive response builds a subconscious impression of reliability, sensitivity, and emotional depth, signaling that you have the capacity to sustain connection, trust, and desire. Independence is one of the most magnetic qualities a woman looks for in a man, and she is always subtly evaluating how balanced, self-sufficient, and grounded you are in your life. She observes whether you have your own passions, ambitions, and routines, whether your fulfillment comes from within rather than relying solely on external validation or constant attention. Independence is not about being distant or detached. It's about having a life that is full, purposeful, and stable on its own while still making space for connection and intimacy. She wants to see if you can maintain this balance effortlessly, showing that you are capable of giving without losing yourself, of loving without dependency, and of being present without surrendering autonomy. She pays attention to how you manage your priorities and responsibilities. A man who is independent demonstrates that he can handle challenges on his own, make decisions confidently, and maintain a life that is intentional and structured. She notices whether you have personal goals, whether you pursue growth consistently, and whether you carry yourself with a sense of self-reliance that doesn't waver under pressure. Independence is magnetic because it communicates security, strength, and self-respect. She is evaluating whether you are emotionally, mentally, and financially self-sufficient, not to scrutinize or criticize, but to see if you can sustain yourself while also being capable of sharing a meaningful partnership built on mutual respect rather than neediness. Emotional independence is just as crucial, and she watches whether you are comfortable being alone with your thoughts, whether you can regulate your emotions without external validation, and whether you can maintain composure when faced with rejection, disagreement, or moments of uncertainty. A man who is emotionally independent signals maturity and resilience, showing that he is capable of managing his own emotional landscape while still being open to connection and vulnerability. She notices if you can balance assertiveness with empathy, decisiveness with flexibility, and self-confidence with humility. Independence is less about proving strength and more about living authentically with a sense of purpose that attracts naturally rather than demanding attention or approval. She also observes the way you navigate social and personal boundaries. Independence is reflected in the ability to maintain friendships, interests, and routines without being possessive or overly reactive. She notices whether you can engage fully in the present moment without needing constant reassurance, whether you can celebrate your successes and her successes equally, and whether you can approach challenges with a sense of personal responsibility rather than blame or dependency. Every choice you make, every action you take, and every decision you honor contributes to her silent assessment of your independence, creating a deep impression of self-sufficiency, reliability, and quiet confidence that resonates far beyond words, signaling that you are capable of sustaining connection while maintaining your own life and purpose. Integrity is one of the quietest but most powerful ways a woman evaluates a man she is truly interested in. And she often does this without a single word being exchanged. She observes how your actions align with your values, how consistently you uphold promises, and how you navigate situations that test honesty, fairness, and character. Integrity is not about perfection or grand gestures. It is about the subtle, everyday choices that reveal whether you are trustworthy, dependable, and principled. She notices how you treat people when no one is watching, how you respond in morally ambiguous situations, and whether you take responsibility for mistakes rather than deflecting blame or making excuses. Every decision, every small act of honesty or ethical behavior becomes a mirror reflecting the essence of who you are and how much she can rely on you emotionally and socially. Even in casual interactions, she observes patterns that reveal character. The way you handle disagreements, whether you speak respectfully, even when frustrated, or whether you honor commitments without hesitation, speaks volumes about integrity. She notices how you conduct yourself in professional and social environments, how your words match your actions, and how consistently you maintain fairness, empathy, and respect. Integrity signals that you are grounded, morally centered, and capable of creating a sense of security in a relationship. Women intuitively sense whether a man is transparent, dependable, and consistent in his principles. And this becomes one of the strongest silent tests of compatibility and long-term potential. Testing your integrity also comes through observing how you treat others, especially those who cannot offer you anything in return. She notices whether you show kindness to strangers, respect to service personnel, and consideration for friends and colleagues, because these behaviors reveal a man's core values more clearly than words ever could. She watches whether you uphold your promises, whether you follow through on commitments, and whether you act with consistency, even when it is inconvenient or uncomfortable. Integrity becomes a signal of reliability, emotional maturity, and the capacity to nurture trust and safety, qualities that are deeply attractive and essential for meaningful connection. Beyond observable actions, she pays attention to how you manage moral dilemmas, subtle temptations, and moments where shortcuts or dishonesty might offer easier outcomes. She wants to see whether you choose the path of principle over convenience, whether you honor your own ethical framework, and whether you maintain accountability even when recognition or reward is absent. Every choice communicates a level of personal discipline and alignment with deeper values. Integrity is measured not in isolated events, but in the consistency of behavior, in the strength of character revealed through countless small decisions, and in the reliability that emerges from honoring both yourself and others. It signals that you are a man capable of sustaining trust, respect, and authentic connection, qualities that form the foundation of desire, attraction, and lasting emotional resonance. Understanding the silent ways a woman tests a man she desires is not about manipulation or playing games. It's about recognizing the subtle language of attraction, emotional intelligence, and trust that she communicates without words. From observing emotional strength to measuring attention to detail, from playful push and pull to assessing independence, and from watching consistency to testing integrity, every interaction is a reflection of deeper qualities that she values most. These tests are not obstacles. They are invitations to show up fully, to demonstrate maturity, confidence, and authenticity, and to embody the qualities that naturally draw a woman toward lasting connection. What she is truly seeking is not perfection or performance, but a man who is grounded, reliable, self-aware, and capable of creating emotional safety while remaining confident and magnetic. Each silent test is an opportunity to reveal these traits, to navigate challenges with composure, to respond to her energy with attentiveness, and to maintain balance between presence and independence. The more you understand these subtle dynamics, the more you can approach connection with clarity, intentionality, and emotional intelligence, transforming uncertainty into a space of trust, attraction, and mutual respect. Ultimately, these tests are not about proving yourself moment by moment. They are about embodying a way of being that resonates on a deeper level, creating an unspoken alignment between intention, action, and presence. When you consistently demonstrate emotional strength, reliability, attentiveness, independence, and integrity, you move beyond the surface of attraction and step into a space of influence and magnetism that cannot be forced, only naturally earned. She is watching, she is observing, and through her silence, she is revealing what she truly values. By responding with confidence, awareness, and authenticity, you become the man who is not only desired, but deeply respected, trusted, and appreciated for who you are at your core.